You got me?
Hello, everybody. What is going on? It's AJay the CEO. We were having a little technical stuff here. Kyle, can you hear me?
I can hear you, man. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yay, we got it up and running. Technology is a wonderful thing. Hey, folks, AJay the CEO here, and we've been doing a lot of these things, and this is episode number 3 of AJay Interviews, is where we're interviewing not just the super arch cardinal bishops and everything like that. I mean, unless they want to come on, hey, I'm welcome to do that. But this is just me sitting down talking with some movers and shakers in the body of Christ that are using media to reach. That's what we do here. We teach about reviews, strategies, and all this other good stuff to help with your media ministry. But what's the point of talking about media ministry if we don't put our feet to the fire and make it a everyday type of thing, understanding it? And I got my friend here, Elder J.Kyle. He is an up-and-comer. He is a brand new author. Anybody who's in our Facebook group, we've brought him on board a couple of times, and you know, this is a brother from another mother, and we're trying to have some conversations because outside of YouTube, we talk a ton. He is an assistant to the pastor, his father, at Gates of Faith Ministries, who happens to be the second church I ever installed any of this media ministry stuff at. So they've been rocking strong since 2015, I think we did that. So it's been a while, but Kyle, hey, tell everybody hello. Who is you and all that good stuff?
Hello, everybody. Hello, my name is J.Kyle Nicholson. As AJ said, we are very, very fast friends. We get an opportunity a lot of times to share just thoughts about ministry and thoughts about life in general. And AJ is a brilliant mind when it comes to the media side of what ministry all means. And so I always appreciate the opportunity to share with him. My heartbeat is actually the connection of the culture of the church. And so we've done some work in that area to make it clear as to what we do and how we do to better advance the kingdom of God.
Awesome. Now, Kyle, just now somebody said they couldn't hear me well. Can y'all hear Kyle well? I just turned my mic up because I hit it by mistake. Let me know in the comments, and I'm going to bring up the comments real quick, and let me know if y'all can hear me well, hear us well. Kyle, you should see it down below once somebody sends a comment. Okay, that was me. Trying to repeat.
There you go.
Seeing if anybody has any. All right, we got Mr. Clarence. Wait a minute. There's somebody in here, Kyle. I think you know who this is.
Uh-oh.
Wait a minute. Is that you?
Uh-oh.
Is that your wife there?
That's my lovely wife,
All right.
Sister Nicholson.
All righty, cool. Everybody said they can hear perfectly fine, so that is awesome. So, folks, if y'all have been on any of my Q&As, we're going to be talking, but we will entertain some questions. I got them looking over here, and we can drop some questions, but this is some real talk. I mean, I got my Bible over here, but we ain't going to break that out unless we really need to, and we're just going to talk real talk. I've been talking to Kyle about some other stuff, and if y'all are in the Facebook group, I've kind of dropped something that hit me in my spirit, and Kyle's book is actually talking about this. Now, y'all know I'm candid, so I'm going to tell y'all this right now. This is not a salesman show. Even though Kyle has dropped the book, we are not pushing a book down nobody's throats. We're not trying to get nobody to buy nothing. We're trying to talk. We want to give some information, and if you feel led to get it, go for it. But we're sitting here talking because, like we said, is we're stronger together. And right now, Kyle has this. He's a culture tech. I'm a technology tech, and we are pairing that together. And you'll see that more people are working in harmony to move the body of Christ where we need to go. So let's start with the easiest thing. Kyle, what is a culture tech?
A culture tech is someone who is a designer of culture, like an architect. An architect is a designer of buildings. So a culture, we coin that, is the designer of culture. And where that comes from is the we normally find that we have such a challenge.
All right, hold on a
We
second,
often say,
Kyle.
hey,
Kyle,
the
you're
church
going.
and what's wrong with the church? I'll make a statement early and
I was saying you're going in and out for a second, so I don't know if it's the
uh-oh,
Wi-Fi there.
uh-oh. You got me now?
Yeah, you were breaking up. So if you could repeat that, please, sir.
Okay. Okay. I hope I didn't move anything. Got wires everywhere. I think I'm good though. No, culture tech is one who designs the culture. And times we go back and talk about what's wrong with the church. You're now and saying there's nothing wrong with the church. When we find Jesus at the coast of Caesarea, he's talking to the disciples. He says, when Peter comes forth and says, "This is the Christ, the Son of the living God," Jesus responds and says that upon that rock, upon that confession, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. So the church that Jesus built doesn't have a problem. The culture surrounding has a challenge. And so while Jesus built the church, it's up to the people who represent the church to design the culture. And that's where I come in. I am a church architect. Culture is what we believe, we don't say, our value system. How do we interact with those in the body? How do we interact with those outside of the body? It has all to do with everything that represents the church. The church is fine, but sometimes we have some challenges with the culture. So we are, at that point, culture techs. We are responsible for designing the culture.
Okay, so we were having some issues there breaking up, but hopefully everybody got the gist of that. I'm gonna make a little change on my side, and I think we should be good because I think your signal came in a lot stronger in that last part of what you were saying. But we're gonna delve into this a little bit more. Let me share this here. So thank y'all for the patience. Like I said, no matter what, even at church, we got technical stuff we got to work through. So we got that shared out. So we're good. All right. So pretty much, quick summary is that what you're saying is that there's nothing the matter with God and Jesus's church, but it is our responsibility to set the culture, as in, and I'm gonna get into real layman's terms. The culture used to be, hey, you can go down to this river and get some good turtle doves. But then now the
Correct.
culture is, hey, you know what? Hey, we got Cash App. We got this. Am I off? Is that kind of close?
You're absolutely right. The way that culture works, culture is always moving because time is always moving. And it's up to us to be able to design the culture as it relates to what's happening in the present moment. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to compromise and say, hey, we've got to do something different with the bloodstained banner per se, but there may be a different methodology as we go forth. It's the children of Issachar when we talk about all of the different sons of Jacob, who is later named Israel, and the children of Israel. They're all in a place where they're getting ready to go into battle, and they always talk about their different skills and talents. But of all of those children, the Benjaminites, the tribe of Judah, all those tribes, it's the tribe of Issachar that has the one distinction that they understand the times and know what to do, which means that they are dictating their movements by what's happening in the moment. And so, for culture's sake, the church has how to move the moment, how to understand how to come moment and still infuse the same gospel, still infuse the same power, but maybe we're adjusting some methods to better reach the audience both inside and outside of the church. And so it's important for us to not just throw everything to the side, but understand what works now and what's not necessarily working, and have the courage to do something about it. If this is no longer applicable, if this is no longer working the way we wanted to work, do we have the courage to move on?
Okay. So I'm thankful for YouTube because this is my platform, so I can't get in trouble for saying something because I can say whatever I want to for the most part on this platform. So let's go to the title of this video, and I'm gonna say it the same way I called you and talked to you when it dropped in my spirit like this. And you're talking about changing with the times. How do y'all on the chat, as well as you, Kyle, how do you respond to this statement? God's word is still relevant, but we may not be relevant anymore. What's your
Bible
thoughts on
says
that?
that
And is that a gut punch, or let's look at the meat of that?
I think that it's going to always be a gut punch when you hear that, because everyone wants to be relevant. Everyone wants to, whatever you're doing ministry wise, you wanted to be able to connect to the audience. But I say this, no one wakes up in context. You don't just wake up and you're automatically connected. Relevance is a cyclical act. You have to find the cycle, what's happening now, and then take that same unchanging gospel and infit to the moment of now. And if you don't, know if you're going to eventually lose that moment of relevance, just because the time keeps slipping into the future. The days become weeks and become months and become years. And the way that we've approached it in the past, if we refuse to make those adjustments and do the hard work of finding out what works with us now, we're going to find ourselves in a very, very bad position. And what will typically happen is that gut punch will happen, and you'll say, "Wow, I, you know, I'm missing a whole generation, or I'm missing a whole segment of people because I haven't changed my methodology."
And,
And if
and,
you don't
and
change your methodology, we're married to it, and for some of us, it's till death do us part.
yeah, and I think that, and I'm glad you said that because that's where that statement comes from. It's not that ministers, ministries, whatever, that the word that God gave them is not important. I'm not saying that at all.
Mhm. Right.
But I do computers. I've been, when I was in the Marines, they were still teaching about bubble memory. Have you ever heard of bubble memory?
It's been a while, but
I mean,
yeah.
but they were teaching in '96 bubble memory, meaning that a bubble is zero, water is one. That's how they used back in the day. That is
Mhm.
good for a history lesson, but that ain't helping nothing, right? Are you concerned about getting a bubble to get this video going on? The live stream is not relevant right now. Now, and it looks like you froze, or you just look like you were paused there for a second. But no, I mean, I guess that's
Froze
the
up
reason why we're
for me.
talking about from a relevant standpoint of, well, how would you define relevancy based off of what you're talking about in your book and what you're seeing from other ministries?
Well, when we talk about relevance, um, truth, we've all, and this is historically, church challenges with
Hey, Kyle.
connecting with,
Hey, Kyle. Hold on one second,
yes,
because
sir.
Hold on a second. You're breaking up. Give me a call, and I'm gonna route you through the phone.
Okay.
Give us 1 second, folks. All right. Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
All right, everybody in the chat, can you hear Cal? All right, hit the turn the mic off on your A10 because we're getting the echo. All right,
Okay.
now can y'all hear? How's that coming through? Now I'm getting the echo of me coming back through there. All right, can y'all hear Cal in the chat? Yeah, we're gonna have to work through it. Hey, it's a technical stuff. That's how we do it.
Okay.
Um, so go ahead and expand on what you were saying, and I need to figure out what we're doing with our echo here. And I just lost Kyle.
Okay.
There you go. So can you repeat what you were saying there, please, sir?
So you got me now?
Yeah, but it was still breaking up. Yeah, everybody was saying still lost you there. I think we need to get you a
Okay.
Starlink with you, so you can have some.
You know, I'm about to try. I'm about to try. We can make that happen.
Okay.
Uh, give me a sec.
Yep.
And come. All right.
Oh, it looks like superintendent just joined.
John, good to have him on the line.
Yes, sir. Well, we'll see what we can do. We'll work through it. Because if we got to do, what we'll do is like when you're back in town, we might have to do a part 2, and we just do it in the studio mode. You still there, Carl? Make sure. So for all those folks who are here, when y'all talking about if y'all have some media stuff, issues, this is what you need to tell folks. It is not always 100%. There's always something to be working through. I can't hear you though.
Oh,
Yeah, now I can hear you. There you go. There you
there we go. All right.
All right. So
Awesome.
now
We find ways.
Yeah, exactly. So let's refresh when you were explaining about the relevance. What and let me jump ahead of that. I mean, we're cutting back the fat. We're going right for the core. What do you
Gotcha.
see are relevancy issues in ministries today? And I mean, we already know about the live streaming thing, but
Right.
let's delve deeper than that. What's the issue? Not the new tool of live streaming and stuff like that that people are fighting, but what's the question behind that? What's the reason do you see or you feel that why people are not jumping on not just live streaming but this new phase? Why are they still trying to put new wine in old wineskins?
Well, the live stream was not easy install in most people's minds, but many of us prior to the pandemic, we were a little bit resistant to that change. But once that happens, now we've got all this stuff set up. Let's talk content. Let's talk connection. Let's talk meeting people at the point of their need. Bishop Marvin Winans says ministry means people. Okay. And so now the question is, which people? Here's what I'll assert. Walking the earth today, you'll find anywhere from 8 to maybe 5 to 8 generations of people who dark our church doors, sit in our pews, Even if they're streaming right now, there are 8 generations. I'll name them for you. If those 8 generations are confusing you, it's a strong possibility that you may not understand everything that's connected. Thank you, my mother-in-law. Um, this is the one.
Yep.
Um, 8 generations. There are 8 generations. The first is the greatest generation. They're probably about 90 years old, 90 and above. Next is the silent generation, which is roughly about 80 and older. Next, we've heard of these people before. They're the baby boomers. My father, you said superintendent had jumped on a minute ago. He's a baby boomer. He's somewhere in his 70s. After that, you'll deal with the Generation X, which sounds a little more familiar. Yeah, I know of Generation X. Between that, Generation X and Millennial, which we normally say everything after Generation X is a Millennial, there's a small segment that I'm a part of. It's called the Zennials. That's half X and half Millennial. After that, you meet the Millennials. Then you'll meet what we call the Post Millennials. Here's a note: you can't call people who are over 25 years span all millennials. There's a millennial and there's a post millennial. There's a generation Y and a generation Z. If you mix them up, you'll lose the whole thing. And then after them, you have generation Alpha, which is my oldest son is generation Alpha. He's 11 years old. The generation Alpha was born in 2010 and forward. So anything 2010 and forward is generation Alpha. So let's put it together again: greatest generation, silent generation, baby boomers, generation X, Zennial, millennial, post millennial, generation Alpha. That's 8 generations. 8 generations possibly walking into your doors, 8 generations sitting in your pews, 8 generations streaming somewhere or from around the world. And the question is, now that we've got the stream up, what are we saying to 8 generations?
So you
How
mean
are we connecting generations?
so you mean you just can't say one thing and all of them just catch it?
Uh, very strong possibility you're gonna miss somebody. Dad would say if you put it too high, then only those who have a certain acumen can catch it. And if you put it too low, it'll be an insult to anyone's intelligence. So you've got to find a way to minister. If the church is going to be ministry minded, we got to find a way to connect and be significantly connected to 8 different generations. And the problem is, many of us have not put a strategy in place to connect to those 8 generations. And so, what we'll do is we'll connect to the one that we're most common with. A baby boomer pastor it's easier to connect to the baby boomer members, unless he is, as we said earlier, intentional and strategic about becoming relevant with what matters to a Generation X member or a millennial member or a zennial member or a generation alpha member. And so it really is an all hands on deck problem. And we literally deal with maybe 2 to 3 of the 8 generations. And then we wonder why we're not connecting. That's a
Now,
problem.
yeah, and that brings up a point, and I'll ask you this, and I'll throw this out to everybody who's watching as well too, because we want your
Sure.
input on this as well too. Is
Hmm.
is it too much to ask for your pastor or leadership to be able to do all of that, or is this kind of like a Jesus and the disciples type of approach, meaning that it's not meant for one person, man or woman, to be. I mean, if they can do it, I think that would be awesome. But
Sure.
is it realistic to expect just your pastor or leadership, that one person, to be able to be that multifaceted, to be able to identify and talk and be hip to whatever is for that generation, to speak 8 different generational languages?
Well, um, let me quickly get the Bible so I won't get in trouble with anyone. Here's what we find about ministry. First of all, the first church in the Bible happens in the book of Acts. But the birth of the church as we know it happens or rather, in the second chapter of Acts, where the Bible reads that the day of Pentecost had fully come. And this is the day that the Spirit of God came into the earth realm like it had never come before. And upon all of those in that room, 120 people in that upper room, the Spirit of God poured out, right? And there was a period unto them clothed in tongues like a fire, and it sat upon each and every one of them. They were all filled with the Holy Ghost, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they spoke as was tongues that the Spirit gave utterance. Won't hang up there, but let's go a little farther where Peter says, after they had risen up and said, "These men are drunk with new wine." Peter says, "These are not drunk, as ye suppose, seeing it's the third hour of the day." And then he does a biblical reference back to an old prophecy from a prophet by the name of Joel. It says, "This is that which was spoken by the prophet Joel." And this is what he says. "And the Lord said, in the last days, I will pour out of my spirit upon all flesh. Sons and daughters shall prophesy. Old men shall dream dreams, and young men shall see visions. And on my handmaidens and on my servants I will pour out of my spirit." So the first thing that the Spirit of God does when he enters into the earth realm is touch every generation. So here's my question to answer your question, AJ. Is it too much to ask of one person to be able to do this all by himself? My question is, why would he? If the Spirit of God came on all flesh, and it didn't just come, let's look specifically what it did. On the sons and daughters shall prophesy.
Mm-hmm.
Old men will dream dreams. Young men will see visions. And on my handmaidens and on my servants, I'll pour out my spirit. Bishop L. Spencer Smith says it this way, that what the old men were dreaming, the young men were waking up to. And what
Mm-hmm.
was being prophesied, it's all the same message. Somehow we've allowed a division to come into the body of Christ, a division to come into the church culture, to the place where we can only deal with one generation at a time. But we don't just need a church full of young people prophesying, nor do we need a church with old men just dreaming dreams. And it doesn't work very well if we just have young men seeing visions.
Mm-hmm.
It only really works if we're going to get the true picture of the church if all of those generations come together. I don't even think that the Lord would trust one generation with this movement, because we would be completely ego struck. If just the baby boomers or just the zennials or just the millennials were the ones to reach the world and turn the world upside down like never before, we couldn't take it. But if we brought all of those generations together, 8 generations strong, no generation left behind, all experiencing the power of God, now what's the question of relevance when I'm dealing with the same level per those 8 generations?
So that was a mouthful, and I really appreciate it. And I mean, and I think that's the part, at least for me. Both of us are preachers' kids, and
Yeah.
we've been around this our entire lives, and that is, for me, it makes things look so much different when we take that word and put it into now.
Wow. Yeah.
About like how important that is. Like just that about young men will see visions, old men will dream dreams, and I mean that, like if you really look at that, that's kind of like the movement that of a lot of people are doing. I mean, I'm gonna just say it right now because it's arrogant to say it if you were saying it yourself, but just from what you're sharing in the book, and because you've been teaching this stuff well before this ever got into a book. And I
Sure.
really feel, just like with other people I'm dealing with, everything has opened up with a whole lot of people from different ages, from different generations, that it's almost like, I don't want to say it's a renaissance, but it's a reawakening of, and I'll give credit to COVID for this, just because it forced people to do stuff that that honestly we should have been doing. I mean, you're talking back all the way back in Acts. That wasn't last week. There's
No.
something that all of us could have been doing. Like, I mean, that's why I really feel, and I go back to my old classic, The Parable of the Talents. Everybody was given some form of talent, but a lot of people have buried it in the ground. And I can be a little more blunt. I really feel that a lot of times when the young men want to have visions, or even when old men want to dream dreams, what I really think it is, that it's shaking up people's the status quo, and they'd rather
Yep.
shut you down, kick you out, tell you to shut up, because no, we don't rock the boat. We're used to this. We're used to
Mhm.
following the order of the church program. Why are we changing something else? That's what I felt when I heard a whole lot of people with when COVID hit and we had to shut the churches down. We had so many people like, I don't want to do that. You can't. No, this is what I'm used to. I'm used to being here. I'm used to doing this. I don't want to change. And I do a parallel to that. Like, I don't want to learn to reach and speak generationally to different generations. Why can't y'all just change and be used to the way I do it?
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, I don't know. That's
Well,
how I feel. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I get it. I think that either side has to be receptive. Um, Case in point, you mentioned this earlier that my church was the second church to really kind of bring you in and say, all right, stretch out, show us what you got. But what you may not remember this, but I think I told you before that my father, and if he's still on, he won't mind me saying he's older. He's got to be classified somewhere. Don't get me in trouble,
Mm-hmm.
but you would be surprised how long his dream and his word was. We got to be able to find a way to get this gospel out of these four walls. It was like buzzword. I want to, we got to get these gospel out of these four walls. And after a while, we always had a tape ministry, quote unquote. Later on, that turned into CD ministry, and back then you'd sell CDs after church, and we had just started talking about, well, maybe we could start to video our ministry. This was maybe about 2013, 2014, and I think that we had started to, kind of move towards the cameras. All the while, this was his dream. I want to get this ministry out of the four walls. I want this this message to live longer than this service. And all of that took place, but it took a younger man like yourself to come in, hear his dream, and put vision to his dream. Now, as much as he wanted to get out of the four walls, um, he could have balked when you first walked in and said, "All right, this is what you're gonna need to get it done." And as a matter of fact, not to throw too much light, but you probably don't mind. We had consulted um, other experts, as it were, to get us together on video ministry. Back then, that's what we called it, video. We didn't know what streaming was, and we heard astronomical figures. And anyone who follows you knows that whatever you quoted us was way, way under and way out of the realm of the astronomical figures that were being quoted. So you got us there, and then we said, okay, we're videoing our services now, and here it was his dream. Let's get this stuff out of the four walls. But he had no visionary to come back behind that. So what was happening? We were getting ready to start doing a DVD ministry, and I will never forget. AJ called one day and said, have you guys ever considered maybe going to like maybe a streaming platform or something? We were like, well, yeah, but that's weird. How does that work? And we had to, here's the word I'm trying to get to, trust. He had to trust another generation to come in and say, there's getting ready to be a twist and a switch in the narrative in the next few years that you're going to want to get in front of. Now, here's an old man who just wants to get the gospel out of the four walls. But he said, yeah, okay, I'm not 100% sure, AJ, what you're talking about. But I trust you and your heart to see this thing move forward, that I will give you the trust to help get us to the next level. So the dreamer has to be able to trust the visionary, because if he sees the vision, it's his, it's your vision. You were the young man in that situation. He was the old man dreaming dreams. But if he gets to the place where he says, well, I don't like the vision that you brought to try to accomplish a dream, the whole thing falls apart. You were seeing in vision what he could only conceptualize and dream. So everyone had to humbly, and then you didn't kick in the door and say, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all are out of y'all's mind. This is such and such. I know what I'm doing. Just get out of the way. Let me do it. No, you come in with a spirit of humility. You come in with a humble approach. And when everyone comes to the table and they're humble and we can work together, we were streaming 3 years before it became a demand situation. And then all of a sudden, 2020 hits and it's like, it was media ministry made easy to media ministry made essential. Mm-hmm. We got to have it. The governor said, can't but 10 people come to our church. And many people the churches were being checked. How many folks do you have in here? And so we were able to continue ministry full throttle within the regulations of the government off of something that a visionary like yourself saw 4 years before it even became a reality. What would have happened if, when we heard that vision, despite his dream, and it sounded the same, we decided not to go with it? So there's an important thing to learn. We are not here to work this thing alone. We are here to cooperate.
Exactly, and that's what we always talk. The bedrock of eMissionary is like, we're not competing with each other. We're complementing each other. Mm-hmm. If yes. I can do something to help, Gates of Faith get 15 more people to hear Superintendent Nicholson hear something that makes them want to say, I want to know about this Jesus you're talking about. Guess what? We won. And you said it the same way. It's like, I mean, you were saying you don't think God would trust everything to be in one generation. I say it this way. If every part of our body was the heart, we wouldn't be doing nothing but just beating on the floor, which ain't gonna last very long. If all of us were a bunch of big toes, we ain't doing that neither. All of us have different skills and abilities. That includes the generations. Just because it sounds strange to you doesn't mean that it's wrong. It might just have a different insight on it. Like, I know now, I love Tesla. I'm looking forward to getting a Tesla, and there's still people that are like, I don't know about that electric stuff. Yeah, because you haven't done the research. Just because you haven't done it doesn't mean it's wrong. Or like the same way, like when somebody's saying, hey, can we invest $500, $2,000 on this equipment and we'll be able to minister beyond the walls? Well, I don't know how that is. I know you don't know how that is, but let's just try it. Because if am I about trying to shut the church down, or I also believe that even if I don't have a title, I'm about that God work just like you, and I want to help. So why not try? Or and for anybody else that might have pushback, I'm starting to be like you. If God gave you the vision, I don't know. I don't even want to go down that path like this, but it says that he provides seed to the sower. So my question is, do you have to become a sower first for him to provide the seed? Which one is it? Because if he's going to provide seed to the sower, is it kind of like, hey, send me? And while you saying send me, he's putting it in your hand to actually happen. So if you have the vision of, if everybody in your ministry is like, I don't want to do this stuff, I am a witness to the fact that if I pushed in that direction, the funds became available to get the stuff done. Because God's mission is going to happen. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You've got to prove that you're a sower before you put seed in. You're not a sower until you sow. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter that you would sow if he ever gave it to you. He said, well, good, then go sow, and then I'll give you seed. He doesn't say I'll give you seed, become a sower. And you have to do it. You have to do what you got first.
Yeah, and I think it's the same way like we always talk in our group as well, just saying like, start with what you got. Well, all I have is my cell phone. That's your seed. That's your sowing. How faithful are you to start with your phone, your webcam that looks like hot trash? Are you willing to put everything into that? Because then it's like, oh, they serious. Let me go ahead and bless them with. Let me just bless them with an extra $15.
So the extra $15.
I mean,
This is what happens.
yeah. Hold on, I see an echo. Oh, but yeah.
You good?
And let's see.
Yeah.
Let me pull your wife up here so we can bring up some comments here. It says the dreamer has to trust the visionary. And it's just a mutual circle. Everybody needs to trust it. I mean, we're not trying to undo it. Go ahead.
And the visionary has to trust the dreamer. Now, and this is the balance of it. Those old seasoned saints, they've got a lot to offer as well. So, I don't want the message of church emergency to become diluted to mean, hey, it's time to let the young people do something. That's not actually the whole piece. There are some conversations that need to happen where you need to go to Hardee's, buy a sausage biscuit and some coffee and sit with an old person and hear the stories. Hear how they made it over. For me, I'm a Zennial. I was born in '80. I found so much value in sitting with my baby boomer father and him explaining to me how he was raised in the South and how he didn't go to school 4 days a week because someone had to stay back and tend to the fields. Tend to the fields. And he's only 72 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And on the day that he did have to go to school, they had to go catch the mule. Catch the mule. The mule? The what?
Wait, so that's what the statement calls "hold my mule"? Is that where that came from?
Yeah, listen, that whole mule was when you had something else to do, you had to make sure you kept him because if not, he'd get away. But my father, man, picked cotton in a field for what did he say? What did he say? 3 cents a pound, and he picked about 100 pounds a day. Yeah,
Mm.
this is where he came from. Okay, now he's a far way from that now. But in the same field he picked cotton, he had to be home before nightfall because the guy who owned the cotton field was a Klansman
Mm.
and would be out burning crosses in the neighborhood. And this is so if you don't understand the story of where he comes from, that messes up everything because sometimes our older generation has a value system based on their experiences, the trauma that they experienced, and he made it through that. Like he doesn't look anything like what he's been through now. He's a very refined gentleman. He'll never lose the country. The country's in him. He's unapologetic about it. But he's a brilliant man. And I would be afraid to have a church with everybody led from my age only because you need the seasoning, you need the wisdom of those generations while you still got the energy of the young people. The young man is for war while the old man is for wisdom. So we can't have you out here doing all the war at the same time either, and we don't have the wisdom. That's why we need everybody. That's why I say 8 generations, no generation left behind. So someone has to come to the table and start the conversation. Someone has to come to this table and say, well, why did you do it that way? How did that make you feel? What did it mean when you were up against this? Many of them come from the deep South where, they understand segregation. They understand, but they may not understand school shootings.
Mm-hmm.
See, they may not understand. We had bomb threats, but they had 4 little girls.
Mm-hmm.
At Sunday school. So everyone's experience means so much to the puzzle. I've got an 11-year-old son in the next room who had to live through something that was, traumatic for all of us. Wait, Daddy, you mean to tell me if I don't put this mask on, I can't go anywhere? And I know they told us we had to leave school Thursday a little earlier because something was going on, and then they told us not to come back Friday because they still weren't quite figuring it out. But then they said maybe it's just better. What's going on? We haven't been to school in over a year and a half now. So everybody's got a story. Everyone's got an experience, and it helps shape the schema for how we approach moments of ministry because we'll approach it from where we come from. We'll approach it from what we've experienced. We'll approach it. Everyone saw the George Floyd situation through different lenses.
Mm-hmm.
So my father sees George Floyd and thinks Emmett Till. My kids have only heard of Emmett Till, but they lived through that.
Hmm.
So everyone has value in their story. Everyone has value in their. Is not, hey, you old people, move out the way. Hey, you young people, it's time for y'all to take over. That's not the message. Because here's what happens. If you young people take over before we get the wisdom of the old people, you young people will become old, and then you'll be outdated as well, and you'll be tired, and there will be no connection with the next generation. But what happens if that block of 8 generations moves like a unit? And little by little, we know that that first generation, about the greatest generation, they're going to eventually join the cloud of witnesses, as it were. But at the end of that 8 generations, that generation alpha will soon meet a generation beta that'll come after that, and there'll still be those 8 generations moving. That's, I believe, what the Spirit of God was intended when He poured out His Spirit on all flesh. I'm building bridges. We're coming together.
Now that makes me
We
sit
have,
back and think when you're talking about, and I completely agree, of all of us needing to move forward, and a type of glue or a type of resin that goes in that keeps those 8 units together is something that I think a lot of ministries are not doing, and that's succession planning. That's the
absolutely.
ability of having the older saints share the wisdom, impart their wisdom on, and I'm not going to negate what you're saying, to impart on their replacement. Like me, I'm a
Mhm.
musician. I don't want to be a musician playing up until I'm 80 years old. I'm looking for
Yeah,
somebody that I can impart what I do know so I can bow out
yeah.
gracefully and move to something else. Man, Micah, what in the world are you doing in on this chat? Welcome, Micah. But yeah, I mean,
That's my dude.
I got Mike up here, but I mean, I think that's the thing about it is like, yes, let us all move together and
Yeah,
share that wisdom. The older saints share the wisdom with the younger, but then also some of the older saints be open to learn from the other generations as well too. It's not just a
yeah.
one-way type of thing like, oh, I'm the older so y'all should just listen to me, or like you said, oh, I'm younger, you just need to listen to me. No, it needs to go both ways. Because
Got to.
hey, there's some stuff, even though I'm in tech, there's some stuff that, like, for me, like TikTok, just it just does not make sense to me. Even though I
I
understand it, the relevance of it, that doesn't make sense to me. My daughter, even though she's 6 and shouldn't be messing with it, she understands it better. But I'm like, this is one of those things that, like, hey, show me this. Let me show you
yeah,
this.
yeah,
And then that's how you move together. Because what's the point of, like, the older generations teaching the younger, but then the younger are like, hey, you might, hey, my eyesight is a little bit better. You're getting ready to step on a landmine. Let me help
yeah,
you as well too.
yeah. Sure. You know, my the funny thing, you mentioned TikTok, and I'm really a Facebook veteran. You can find me on Facebook pretty easily. I know where to find that. I'm not too much on Twitter because they don't have but a certain amount of characters. But one of my some of my youth told me one day, uh, Kyle, you need an IG. I was like, yeah, I've seen it. I have an IG. He's like, yeah, but it's nothing on it. I was like, well, why am I supposed to have an IG? What is that supposed to do? And they began to tell me, it's really you telling pictures and stories and short video clips and things of that nature, as opposed to your text, where Facebook kind of gives you all of that. IG is kind of like, I'll show you better than I can tell you. We had the conversation a few weeks ago. They said, now it's time for you to get a TikTok. I said, so what, I got to do dances? And they sit down and tell me, no, it's not just dances unless you want to do fun stuff, but it's also very thought provoking things that you can do in the TikTok world. Some really heavy hitting things. And what, I'm listening like, yeah. So tell me more, because I'm getting it, and they're taking me very slowly about, because we're not going to have you out there looking crazy when you do your TikTok stuff, but we're going to make sure that it makes sense for what you're doing. But that's the wisdom that they bring. You mentioned succession planning, and I'll say this: succession planning is never supposed to be about who's next before it's about who's now. Don't worry about who's going to come up after you. because the chances are, if you work on who you got now with you, you already they'll be prepared by the time there's next. I'm reminded of Moses and Joshua. Moses and Joshua are the picture perfect situation for succession planning, because what Moses and Joshua prove is that if you work on who your successor is now, you won't have to worry about what happens when he leaves, when you leave. Moses, when they're getting ready to have the battle with the Amalekites, he calls Joshua to him and says, "Hey, you," he immediately makes him a leader. "You pick out men to form an army and go down into the battle and to the valley and fight the Amalekites. I'm going to go to the top of the mountain and hold the rod of God in my hand." Immediately Moses knows, I'm way too young. I'm way too old to be swinging swords. I've had my sword time. I don't think that'd be a good idea for me swinging swords, but I do know that I should be there where the people can see me and have hope. So Joshua is instructed and given accountability and given responsibility to pick your leaders. Pick your band of warriors, and go do the sword time. Now, if you know the story, you know that as long as Moses' arms are raised,
Winning.
Joshua prevails. And whenever Moses' arms fall, Joshua begins to be defeated. And so Moses is, I call them his contemporaries, Aaron and Hur, notice this and they discern that, oh my goodness, there's a correlation that if the leader's arms aren't up, this emerging leader is losing. So they rush to his side. They see Moses tired. They put a stone under Moses so that he can have a place to sit. And then they stand on either side of him and they lift his arms to make sure that the staff remains, because as long as his arms and the staff are remaining, that Joshua will continue to win. Watch how this is happening. This is the synergy moment. Moses still has the staff in his hand. Aaron and Hur are holding his arms but refuse to touch the staff, because the staff is indicating that he is the leader. This is the same staff that he threw down in front of Pharaoh and turned into a snake. This is the same staff that he stretched into the Nile and turned the water into blood. This is the same staff he's been walking with for over 40-something years. This is the same staff that he stretched out over the Red Sea and it parted. So they're not going to stretch and try to take over the leadership role just because the staff seemed like it fell a little bit, but they have enough respect to move his arms up without touching the staff. And while they're holding his arms up, Joshua takes the sword, and the Bible literally says that he discomforted the enemy with the sword as long as Moses' arms were raised. That is the synergy moment. The synergy moment provides for the succession moment. So when Moses dies, God goes right to Joshua and says, "Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise," and starts right. And as I was with Moses, so will I be with thee. So he didn't have to worry about succession because you used him while you were here. He caught more from Moses than he ever was able to be taught from Moses, because he walked with Moses. He was allowed into those moments of leadership. And so when this transition happens, it's natural. And the men of Israel are so tight about it, they say, we kind of messed up with Moses and made him mad. He was hitting rocks and stuff. So we're going to do better. If any of y'all mess with Joshua, we're going to take y'all out of here. That's what the type of leadership it was. And so it's all about synergy leads to succession.
Now,
I should have put that in the book. Synergy leads to succession.
that would be book number 2. Now,
It was-
one question, and I guess a comment to let's take a left in this conversation. I like that, and you're talking about synergy. But what I heard and what you were saying is that sounded like that was a strategy for synergy as well too, and how that
Yeah.
was handled. So let's pluck one of the juiciest strategies that you got in the book, and let's
go.
do some real talk on like where we at right now, 2021. What's a simple strategy that you can share for like that you think is applicable for right now?
Right now, let's go to Jesus in Revelation, where he talks to the church and he says, "Strengthen the things that remain." Strengthen the things, he tells the church, strengthen the things that remain. So when we deal, you need to take a real honest look at where your ministry is now. we like to say we're coming out of the pandemic. Well, at least we're on, I like to call it the other side of the pandemic. What do you have left? And what can you do with what you have left? This goes back to what you said earlier, AJ. You've got some stuff, you've got some things going on. Use what you got. You may not have those 8 generations now, but do you have 3? If you've got 3 generations, bring them together. Let's cast fresh vision, because I can't use new wine, like you said, in an old wineskin, because an old wineskin is always going to be shaped like the old wine. So when a new wineskin comes in, it's brittle now and it's going to break. So the way that they did wineskins in Bible times, you didn't get a new wineskin. The better word was actually a fresh or a refreshed wineskin, which means that there's a process that goes through in your wineskin that it reconditions it so that it can hold new wine again. The new wineskin is actually representative of a new mindset. So you can't put new wine in old wineskin actually means the same thing as you can't put new fresh revelation in an old mindset. So if my mindset is a pre-pandemic, we're going to have to get back to church the way it used to be, like we were doing. If you are still thinking we got to get the church back the way it was, as opposed to what is God trying to manifest in this hour, you're already outdated. You're already outdated. I'm a pawn shop extraordinaire. I love going to the pawn shop. You can always find something good at the pawn shop. I'm a bargain shopper. I bought a Mac computer, a Mac tower, because I got a really good deal on it. And while I am good on culture, I'm not that good on tech. And I probably should have called you first. But I got a great deal on this big Mac tower. I forget, it was like generation. I forget what generation it was. But I think when you got to the church, you looked at it and you said, you're going to have a hard time moving this thing and getting to do what you wanted to do today. Like, yeah, but it's the same Mac. It's this big silver tower. It's got this great big screen. It's got a computer. It's got a keyboard and a mouse. And I know y'all are laughing at me because all of you e-missionaries already know where I'm going with this. If it was in the pawn shop, chances are you got it for $300. Chances are it's outdated. So you got to have some honest conversations. What is the ministry that was working at one point is no longer giving us the effectiveness we need? And have those bold conversations to say, hey, I'm not going to be able to bring that into this next season. Now, certainly, if I really wanted to bother AJay, I need you to get this Mac up to running like it needs. But by the time he finished sinking the money into it and the man hours into it, it'd be better for me to just get the updated version. There are updated versions of ministry that doesn't change what it does, what the purpose of the ministry is. No more than bringing the new Mac changes what we're doing in it's still the same concept. It's still the management of our media stuff is still the management of our church resources and all the, if you're doing the presentations or whatever, it's still that. But the drivers are different. All the internal stuff is different. I can't call the right names. This is why I call AJ for everything. But none of that stuff works. And it looks like it's supposed to work as is in the case. But you have to stop now and say, is this still working? And if it's not working, is it repairable or is it replaceable? Because if it's not repairable and it's not working, then that means it's replaceable. It needs to be replaced because it's taking up space for productivity. So as you come out of the pandemic, now what does church look like? I would say you need to bring back everything you got together. Find out who's still in your ministry. We made a strong statement. We're going to lose some folks in the pandemic and we're going to find some folks in the pandemic. Some people are not going to want to return. Some people are going to find you in their search for a new place to be. Wherever it is, bring those people together with a fresh and renewed vision that speaks to today. I'll say this in the book as well. If you don't know what God is saying today, get into your prayer closet and hear what the Lord is saying. Sharpen your prayer hour, sharpen your prayer time so that you can get your ear tuned to what the kingdom is doing now. If he's not doing what he used to do and he's doing something now, but you're only in a place where you can believe him for what he used to do, you're going to miss him every single time. He told the people of Israel, I will do a new thing. In other words, I'm getting ready to birth something that you've never seen, but you got to forget the stuff that I did behind, because that was only to show you how far I'd go to be able to bless my people and advance the kingdom of God. But what I'm getting ready to do now is new. And if you can get in front of what God is doing in a new season, and I can't tell you exactly what he's doing, I can tell you that it's unification. I can tell you that he's bringing the people of God who are those who are unashamed, blood bought, redeemed believers. He's unifying us. He's helping us to tear down the walls of division, because Jesus prayed in John 17, his last prayer, Lord, make them one. So that's always going to be a big piece of what God is doing. And so anytime you start to unify under the name of Jesus, you find that the Lord sees us in agreement and he blesses that moment. So I would say, for a simple strategy, bring the people back together, get a vision that is kingdom inspired, that is relevant to the day, relevant to the people you serve, so that you meet them at the point of their need. You may not want to be able to tell them what they need. You may need to hear them. Where are you now? How do you need this sort of ministry? How is your financial situation going? Do we need to do something more practical in this point? How is your biblical literacy? Do you understand biblical application? Can we talk about a biblical life skills, not just Bible study, but now let's put a living Bible study. Let's put put this Bible study on my Tuesday afternoon at work, or my Thursday at home with the kids. Help us to be able to apply that wherever it is. If someone can find digestible ministry, and that doesn't have to necessarily be to their liking, but to their need, and is given by grace, people will come. People
And
will reconnect.
I
Yes,
completely
sir.
agree. And I really feel like with that and the push from an e-missionary standpoint, and just, yeah, the e-missionary standpoint, that yes, the lecture format on Saturday, Sunday, whatever day you have your typical service, it's nothing wrong with that. All I'm
Mm-mm.
saying is let's kick it up a notch. And just like you said, practical app, living Bible. How about have other content that meets people at their need? Meaning that,
Yep.
you know what? Hey, I understand this tithe and stuff, but I can't pay the power bill. Can somebody break that down to me? Not in the be smitten by rocks from heaven. No, 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 not that. Tell me how. And I think that's kind of
Stewardship.
like going back to the generational approaches. And and I'm gonna pick something that I remember to make sure I remember how some of the stuff that you were teaching, of how certain generations hear stuff completely different. You could be
Sure.
saying the same thing, but it's interpreted different. Meaning that, and correct me on the generation, that the baby boomers, or was it the silent generation, if you look them in the eye, that's considered respect. Or did I have that?
Absolutely.
But then some of
No,
the younger,
absolutely. If you're not looking them in the eye, then that means you're hiding something, you're being shifty, or it's disrespect.
but then
So
younger
you did
generations,
look at me when I'm talking to you.
yeah, but younger generations, if you look them in the eye, it's considered a threat.
Absolutely.
So I
Absolutely.
say all
And so
that. It,
those tendencies.
Yeah, and I say all that to say that it's like a lot of us, we're one of the things I love to say is that the biggest trick that we've been fooled, the body of Christ, is we spend more time fighting amongst ourselves than fighting the real enemy. I'm still complaining at you because you want to do 3 songs and I want to do 2. And I'm more like, in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter? No, it
Right.
doesn't.
Right.
But we have built up so much dogmas, um, manuals, pamphlets, orders of operation, SOPs on how this needs to be done, And it don't mean nothing to
Right.
how many people have heard the message of Jesus Christ.
Right.
You know, and
It's really our preference.
mm-hmm,
It's our preferences. And one of the things about a generational approach, like I'm talking about, someone's not going to have their preference met. Someone's going to have to give some room. And what I've learned is that if the main thing and the main goal is to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, or is it to be in service together and that we all be blessed, that you'll give some room. Those older saints don't want to hear Kurt Franklin and Ty Tribbett and Kiera every Sunday. They want to hear. They need to hear a few hymns. They need to hear "Down at the Cross Where My Savior Died." They need to hear that, and we need to love that enough because we see that blessing them. Watch this. Let it bless you too. You're still singing about the same Savior, sing same cross, same blood. Just because they're not necessarily all that about Maverick City worship, well, it might not hit them. There's a narrative in the whole first verse that there's a lot of stuff to say, and there's no hymn book. They can't line this. So, can I enjoy that? And can they enjoy this? And can we remember that that's a different expression of the same God? That's a different expression. It's a different viewpoint. And if we can do that, we can come together. Have to. Because I think the enemy loves the division. I think he thrives off of it.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I'm gonna throw another one in there for you. Is can we not see God in somebody having a Christian based cooking show where they making
Yeah,
them favorite biscuits that they haven't had a chance to cook at church because of COVID, but they can still see the God in you, or you have some of those young folks that love playing whatever games they doing, but they can, instead of cussing at each other for when they losing,
sure.
they can talk a little about the love of Jesus while they doing it. I mean, I ain't trying to be
Yeah,
corny, but it's like the ministry is not always just a lecture. It's like just with
yeah,
David and King Agrippa. It's like, hey, you almost convinced me by the word of your testimony, just about how you live in your life.
right,
And I think
right.
that's that. I mean, that's why reality shows. What are reality shows doing? They ain't teaching you nothing. You're seeing their testimony. Now, some of it
That's
might not
good.
be the greatest testimony that you want to mimic your life off of, but that's what a reality show
Testimony
is.
nonetheless.
Yeah, you're watching somebody's testimony, and
Mhm.
that is very popular. So what's the matter with, hey, you know what? I'm gonna show you my testimony. And guess what?
Right.
And how mine is this is how I'm using the God given gifts to give that He gave me, that this is how I'm using them. What's the matter
Yes.
with that? And I'm not lecturing. I'm not taking my Bible and getting two of them together and using the usher chain to put them together and to make some Bible nunchucks and hit people upside the head with it. No, that's I think that's the whole thing, that in this season is we have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
And I
You,
remember
you, you, you,
somebody, go ahead.
you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
And I think the one thing that the hard hitting, the Marine Corps of me, part of me, when everybody's like saying that I don't want to change, we want to get back to this. I said, first off, the only thing that don't change is God. Everything else changes. As long as the earth remains, there will be seed time and harvest. There's going to be growing, there's dying. For you to say that you ain't going to change, you ain't even biblically accurate. God is the only thing that does not change, so we have to be willing to change. We ain't sacrificing turtle doves and pigeons and stuff like that. That has changed. We ain't driving a horse and buggy no more. That has changed. We getting ready to go from gasoline to electric. That's changed. Why are we so adamant that I don't want to change? I just want to get back to the way it used to be, when that has already changed.
Well, I'll tell you, you asked for a strategy earlier, and I'll give you a second strategy because this one will help you a little bit in a little more comfort. You take one hand and you put that one hand on what we like to call the old landmark of the faith. How Jude said, earnestly contend for the faith that was once delivered to the saints, right? And you take that other hand and you stretch it as far as you possibly can to that generation that you're trying to reach, to whatever that group is that you're trying to reach. But don't let go of the right hand. Keep the right hand on the faith. Take the left hand, and as long as you got a right hand on the faith, then you become the bridge to bring them to the faith. Here's the rule. If you have to let go of the landmark to reach them, then you will reach them, but they'll only have you and not the landmark. So keep your hand on the faith. And if you can't, watch this is the scary part. If you can't reach them with your hand on the faith, they're out of reach. They're going to have to swim in a little bit. They're going to come in a little bit. But as long as you got your hand on the faith and the gospel of Jesus Christ does not change, then you can stretch. Now, here's the deal. You said the uncomfortable. It's going to take a stretch. Just don't let go of the faith, whatever you do. Don't worry about them right now. But if you don't let go of the faith, it stretch you, make you uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, look, I got to, get some flexibility because now we've got to stretch far. But as long as my hand is on the faith, I'm good. Because if I can catch them and keep them, I can bring them to the faith.
Yeah, and
whatever I had to do to make it happen. Just don't let go of the faith.
Yeah, it's like I want to say it's Zig Ziglar, but I think it's somebody else. And what made me sit back and think about that is like a rubber band's only purpose is found in the stretch. You know, a rubber band is pointless if it's not being stretched. That's where it fulfills its purpose.
You're gonna have to stretch to get it.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing. People can't.
We ought to be able to stretch to get it.
Yeah.
The whole virtual movement of church is a stretch. Do you realize that today we're talking on a bunch of one-eyed demons? That's what they used to call the TV and the computer and television and all this stuff. Then we realize, okay, wait, no, it's not the device. It's what they do on the device. We can fix all the stuff that we do wrong on the device, do right things, and now it's sanctified. You understand what type of stretch that was? Mm-hmm. That was a stretch. God is calling us in this season. Okay, I'm glad y'all figured out streaming. I'm glad you guys figured out how to be on. Now we got everybody online. You don't need a mega ministry to have a mega impact. Now it's time to stretch again. So now it's time to get out of your comfort zone again. And faith is the thing that stretches you. You stay connected to the faith, but your faithfulness and your faith to God and stretching to those who are lost is what puts you in the uncomfortable position to say, man, I'm not comfortable with this, but I know this is where we got to be now. I remember when I first got back from college, the big stretch was our church was very, very conservative as it relates to dress. It was suits and ties. It was dresses and hats, and we proposed a fourth Sunday dress down service. Mm-hmm. Woo! Fourth Sunday dress down service, boy. You can wear your jeans skirt, your Jesus shirt, and I guess this may have been in maybe the late '90s, early 2000s. That was a stretch for them. Man, it was a stretch. Pastor went with it though. He was like, okay, I can do that. And we know we got him straight to make sure when he dressed down that he didn't look too out of sorts. Got him a few good T-shirts and some, he was always neat. That's a stretch. That was a stretch in 2002, 2003. But if you're still doing dress down services in 2021, guess what? Your stretch doesn't last. Your stretch doesn't make it anymore. Because now if the young people or anyone comes to your church and they're not dressed in suits and ties, we're at the place now where we just happy to see you. Talking about dress down. But so now what's the new stretch? Now, here's the scary part for a lot of people to say, well, isn't it supposed to be biblical that we wear certain suits and ties? And it's not doctrine. It's preference. We just have a preference there. But a lot of times, it's not the doctrine that's ever being stretched. It's your preference.
Mm-hmm.
It's your preference. So can you get out of the thing that you prefer to do the thing that's going to matter to connect to that generation, to connect to those people? And sometimes it's not the young people. Sometimes it's the folks that are the same age. Um, Whatever time, anything you do at your church that makes something exclusive automatically excludes somebody. Just remember that. If you make it exclusive, don't be mad when it excludes somebody. So you say everybody got to wear all white, and that's a common one. Just remember, someone who doesn't have all white will think twice about coming.
Yeah. And I think,
Everybody got to wear jeans and jerseys. Okay, just remember, if it's right, okay, but if I don't have jeans and jerseys, can I still come? Anything you do to make you exclusive, just remember you run the risk of excluding somebody.
now I'm gonna throw this one out because this popped in my head when you said that. That
Uh,
excluding people also means that if you're only being able to live stream,
mhm.
which excludes certain people that don't have computers and internet, if you're only allowing people to hear the word if they come into your building, what about the child molester that they've been delivered but legally they can't show up at a church? Are you excluding them too? I mean,
Right.
so it's like, yeah, we're talking about technology and live streaming and stuff like that, but that's just like, I was getting ready to say it's a gateway drug. It's not that, but it's a gateway to change. It's like
Yeah.
that's just the door. And I always say from media ministry, when you go into media ministry, live streaming, you think it's a lot, and you're like, man, I got to go down 2 floors. You go down 2 floors, and then you realize, man, it's 2,000 more floors I can go. This can go so much
Yeah.
deeper. So yeah,
Yeah.
you step into that stretching moment. But once you feel like, oh man, I finally got to this point, then it's like, oh, you got so much farther you could stretch
So
if your
much.
faith was at the point that it can be developed to go. It's like you can go as far as your faith will allow you to go. And it's just
Absolutely.
that exclusivity. I just want people to realize that there is no, okay, yep, we got the cameras, we got the PTZs, we got the Facebooks, the OBSs, and all this other stuff. Whew, we're done. No, you just
We're
got
good.
started.
This got started. Because the world is ever changing. The world is ever changing. Our Savior isn't changing. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. But the world is ever changing. So we're finding new ways to present the same Savior to a world that keeps moving.
Yeah.
And as long as, again, I got my hand on the faith, if I change methodology, but I connect with them and I haven't let go of the faith, which means I haven't done anything that would be a shame to the faith, then that means I've just stretched to another level that is as possible is necessary at this point. Now, again, like you said, we're not going to be corny about it, but we do need to be strategic. We need to be tactful. We need to be wise as serpents and yet harmless as doves. We have to understand our audience. We have to understand who we're reaching. We have to understand how things are landing. I say this often: there is no longer what people would have called a an in-house message. You can't say people, well, I know you love it. I know you like the stream, but you need to be here on Sunday mornings because you talking to people in 7 different states, and you can't downgrade their experience because they don't live 15 minutes from you.
Mm-hmm.
So little things that's gonna make you stretch. Now you got folks that's gonna be tuning in after your stuff is over. They're gonna catch your YouTube service 3 weeks later. So you got to make sure that they and they're loyal and they're being blessed by the ministry. So you have to, with God, always think bigger. How big is God going to go? You're never going to get to His parameters, but it's very, very imperative that you continue to move in the direction that God is pushing us. And it's out of your comfort zone. It's out of, yep, I got it all under control. Some of it you're going to have to prepare like it all depends on you. And then you're going to have to pray and trust like it all depends on God.
Absolutely. And I think that's the, I mean, it's exciting and it's kind of a little scary at the same time. And I heard Bruce Wilkinson wrote the book The Prayer of Jabez, and he was talking in there saying that he was talking to an older saint about like, man, I'm walking this path with God, and I feel scared. Like
Mhm.
I feel like I'm about ready to fail. And the older saint was like, good. That's a good place to be, because your scaredness
Right.
is really dependence on God, meaning that if God ever took his hand off, you couldn't do it, meaning that you
Right.
have to live by faith daily to accomplish the task that God has placed you at, because you're out there so far. And it's, I mean, I think that's where a lot of us are getting to, because I mean, I ain't putting your business out there. I'm not gonna put my business out there, but making the steps that we had to do, and we've talked behind the scenes. Some of this stuff is very scary to do. To when everybody says you need to walk by faith, there are different levels of that. Like when it's saying, man, all I got is $5 in my pocket and I need to buy a tank of gas. Yes, I'm not going to knock that. You need faith to do that. But it's another thing that it's like when you go to that next level, it's like how far can that faith be stretched? It's like, I mean, hey,
Right.
I don't have it all. So when God wants me to go into a different direction, I'm just like, okay, God, I'm okay. We got another storm, another boat. Okay, if
Yeah.
that be you, bid me to come out here. I mean, this ain't a little
Added on
fishing
schedule.
boat. You want me to step off a cruise ship and walk on the ocean? Okay, let's do
Okay.
this. And I just think it's very powerful with this. And before I go any further, I know we've been talking for a minute, and I popped it up a couple of times, folks. Please make sure that you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. That way, you get notified when we come out with other videos like this. There it goes. There's the graphic. I
There it
really
is.
do this, and also we didn't get a chance to get it done, but Mr. J. Kyle is starting his YouTube channel as well, to where he's going to be talking more in depth about from his ministry standpoint and some other stuff like that. So after this, I already have his ministries page, jknministries.com, in the description. Make sure you check him out. And might as well do it right now. Where can everybody find you? Let's see. Did he pass my tests on the digital handle? Mr. J. Kyle,
Actually,
who
we,
can?
we didn't get a chance. We
Oh,
pulled in at the last minute, so we weren't able to get it just yet. But that's our homework for the night. But you can find me at JK Ministries on YouTube. Also, our website is jknministries.com. You can find us on Facebook at JKN Ministries. IG is I am J. Kyle Nicholson, and Twitter is I am J. Kyle Nicholson.
awesome, awesome. Because I just really think that I really think that instead of it having our own little kingdom of ministry, that we can do so much more if we are like, I have no issue with funneling people to you, because you funnel people to me, and it's like, it's not like, oh my gosh, I got mine and you can't, I'm gonna get them all like it's Pokemon, I need to catch them all or something like that. No, it's not that at all. It's like we're stronger together. I'm not meant to
Absolutely.
reach everybody. You're not meant to reach everybody, but we can reach everybody.
Everybody. We're so much better together. We're so much better together, and it's a kingdom thing again. I made this statement about, and I think you agree with me. But I don't think that the kingdom of God being advanced will ever be a one man band situation. Um, God has a way of making sure that He gets the glory, and He actually gets the glory when the numbers or the odds are stacked against us. And so a lot of times that means him diminishing certain numbers. That means that there may not be a whole big movement, but at one point or another, however it sets, that God will get the glory and not one man. I believe that's where the Lord moves. It's when his glory is guaranteed. When God's glory is guaranteed in our movement, that's when he touches, that's when he moves. But if there's ever a chance where a man will take the credit, he may still move, but he may have to remove the man out the way. And I'm not trying to go anywhere yet, neither are you. So I know
Absolutely.
better, man. That glory doesn't belong to me. That glory doesn't belong to you. That glory belongs to God and nobody else. And as long as we stay humble, stay in our position. I think it's is it Ruth Leandra? She still has like one of the best lines in a gospel song I've ever heard. She says, "You get the glory and give us the victory."
Mm.
She sings to God and says, "You get the glory and give us the victory." And I said, "Wow, do you really want the glory or do you just want the victory?" We just need the victory.
Mhm.
God can have the glory. He can have the glory. But where we're moving now, we want to make sure that we are victorious in everything we put our hands to. And it will be to all glory, all honor, and all praise to God.
Absolutely. Now, for y'all, for anybody who's watching, please make sure you share this. Now, one of the other great things about y'all know that we're putting together the For Me virtual conference that is coming up very quick, fast, in a hurry, July 24th and 31st. Mr. J.Kyle is going to be one of the keynotes talking about more detail of some of these strategies and things that God has given him insight for. So make sure this picture pops up here. So we are at the registration here, emissionaryconference.com. We're past the early bird stuff, but honestly, you have 2 days to go to any class that you want to live, and then you can watch it. Any of the other sessions from other media ministry professionals and other folks, ministers from all over the world to help empower your media ministry to reach people all over the world. It's $75, but again, you have access to all that information for an entire year. So that is very, very dirt cheap. We ain't trying to be rich off of this stuff, but we're trying to do something different. We're trying to bring
Yeah.
together 2,400 media ministries from all over the world, ranging from Japan to Paris to Jamaica to a bunch of the states, to the Philippines. And we're, like we always say, won't care if you sprinkle, dip, or dunk. As long as you ain't offering, drinking some snake blood or something like that, we are all on the same purpose. And there are other people who are all over the world that have used media ministry in a different way, and they're willing to share to learn how we can all move forward. That's what it's all about, and Kyle is going to be there to share. We got a whole bunch of other people that are going to be, some of the people who are in this chat, Josh, Otis, um, um, I was gonna say Micah, but Micah, you could use you, man. Come on now, we can get you on here. But we got a lot of stuff that we just want to share, stuff like this, and it's not about just a lecture stuff. It's actually what can I do to transform my media ministry, like I always say. And Kyle, I really appreciate the book. I already ordered one. I'm waiting for it to come in, and where it's talking about that online is a 7 billion visitor mall. And all you have to do is set up a store because it is completely free. That's all this is. Online is just another tool. And to go back to what you were saying, Kyle, that the message does not change, just the methods. We're trying to share different methods to reach all of the generations, not just ignore and only focus on one, but reach multiple. So, Mr. J. Kyle, do you have any closing comments, any words? I mean, you already dropped your info and on how people can reach you. Is there any other closing comments that you want to share and at all?
Well, you were saying a minute ago that the message doesn't change, only the method. May I add that if you feel that the message needs to change, it probably wasn't the right message in the first place.
Boom, absolutely.
Because if it was right, heaven and earth will pass away, but my word, says the Lord, will not pass away. So if you feel like, oh, something's wrong with the way okay, it might have been your method of delivering the message. We make sure that the message remains the same. I am so encouraged by what AJay is doing here with the e-missionary movement, and I remember in the infancy of this conversation, having late night discussions about just how and just when, and I didn't know what was going to come of this, but I knew that God's hand was on him, and so I'm so glad to see what He's doing with you guys in this season. I really believe that you really haven't seen anything yet as it relates to God's plans. Because I think if you keep your heart pure, then God can get the glory. You will see victory after victory. As far as we're concerned, man, thank you for the opportunity to be a part. If you all are interested in the book, it's actually went live on Amazon today. Uh, it's the book is entitled Church Emergency: Create Intergenerational Synergy in Ministry Now. This is an emergency, and we need to bring those generations together. So, if any of you are part of a church that is having struggles with connecting the generations, I want to offer you a resource that I believe is God breathed and is going to be a blessing to each and every one of you. Um, Additionally, we're so excited to, oh, there it is right there. Thank God. So we're so excited to offer you that. I'm really looking forward to the eMissionary Conference. It's going to be a big deal. I'm looking forward to seeing what God is going to do and how God is going to connect us in the advancement of the kingdom. I absolutely believe that the pandemic was strategic. And although, many of us are left this earth realm, many of us are still here. And if you're still here, as Rich Tolbert says, you're alive because there's more. And so we got to find out what the more means. And so let's connect, let's stay connected, let's continue to push, let's watch what God will do, and let's be in place because God will do it with ordinary people who have extraordinary vision
Absolutely.
and ground stopping faith.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We're gonna have to do this again. I know.
Sure.
We got J. Kyle with some the A10. We got him some cameras and stuff like that. We're gonna
Yeah,
help you getting his stuff to next level. He's gonna be dropping some stuff on YouTube because I'm helping him with that, folks. So be on the lookout for that. I will make sure to let y'all know about all that. And I'm
absolutely.
just really excited about this because I'm gonna drop all the info now because I remember it was about a year ago when I did my first book. Both of us got that call to write,
Yeah.
and it's I'm just so proud of you. I'm so thankful that you pushed through it. That I know there were some mountains and some valleys you went through, but I'm glad that you got it. It's there. It's on Amazon. It's gonna bless people, and I'm just excited about it. I like to see, just like you said, God gets the glory and we get the victory. I like seeing the victories that are happening and coming your way. And I'm really excited about it. I'm just excited about everybody's stuff because, whether I'm seeing people in here that's talking about that their ministry has been able to move forward from just like some little thing that I shared, and I still say it's little because the benefit is better. Like, and I say, just like with this book and everything else, like what you're doing is you're an apple. Excuse me, you're an apple seed. We don't know how many
Okay.
apples come out of that apple seed. And I really think that's what it is because the little thing we do can bless so many. And I think that's the whole point of it, that we're not trying to hold this information and just be like, no, it's mine. Like Smeagol, and we got the ring from the Lord of the Rings, and we did that made precious. We're not doing that. We want to share what God has gifted us
Yes.
because He didn't give it to us just to keep it to ourselves. And hopefully
Absolutely.
it will bless the body because we're all one. We are not separate. I might be a big toe, somebody else might be a knee, but guess what? We're all connected to the same body, and instead of us fighting each other, we can work together off of each other's strengths so that way all of us get better.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, sir. I hope y'all
Thank
enjoyed
you,
this.
man.
Please make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button. Really appreciate it. Again, we were working through some technical stuff, but hopefully I'm going to keep that in because y'all can see that even with all the stuff that AJ does, we still have technical issues, folks. That's just the nature of it, and we just keep going. That's what
Yep.
it's all about. I hope y'all enjoy.
Probably on my.
So but hey, Kyle, y'all have a safe trip where y'all are at. Y'all
Yeah, man.
enjoy, and for everybody else, on Sunday, y'all have a happy Father's Day. All this other stuff.
Yeah.
I hope y'all have a great day, evening, afternoon, night. I saw a couple of people. It was like 2 a.m. Thank you for joining because I know we're all over the world because that's where it's at, and I really appreciate it. Thank y'all so much. And if no one has ever told you, I want to tell you thank you for what you're doing in media ministry. Thank you for following your vision and the calling that God is giving you because that little thing that you think you don't know, you are an expert to somebody. You are a genius to somebody else. And God gave you that ability for a reason. He doesn't make a mistake. He gave it to you, that vision to go in this direction, go here, write that book, start that song, make that play, do that poem. He gave that to you for a purpose, because what you do, you're going to be the only person that can reach certain people, and that's what it's all about. So we encourage all of y'all. Thank you so much. Love y'all. We will see y'all on the next video. Later.